Hey, what's up guys, it's Marv and welcome back to another Asphalt 9 update video. Today we got the patch notes for the Italian Revolution update, and this will include 2 seasons. So basically we'll just have Italian Revolution Part 1 and Part 2. So of course in this video I'm going to go over everything you need to know about the update, going through all of the details about the new cars, features, and events. So let's get right into it. So starting off with a banger of a car, we have the Lamborghini Huracan STO. Now unfortunately the performance of this car is not quite as I would have expected, especially since it's the more track focused version of the normal Huracan, yet it still performs way below the Huracan Evo Spider we already have in the game. So as you can see by the max rank, it's going to be a pretty low to mid tier B class car. Now because of that, thankfully it is going to be the Legend Pass car, so if you're going to skip the Legend Pass this time around, don't be too worried about the car this time. So it's nice that we have the Huracan STO in the game, but I would have loved to see it be a more, well, higher performing car. And next up with an unexpected rank as well, we have the Ferrari Daytona SP3 coming in with a max rank of 4073 in C class. Now don't get me wrong, this is going to be one of the best C-Class cars in the game. However, we're talking about the LaFerrari V12 powertrain without the hybrid engine. So that made me question whether or not I think this deserves to be a high-end C-Class car. I definitely would have thought it would have been at least a high-end B-Class car, but nonetheless, it's at least good to see that it's at the high end of C-Class, not just some random C-Class car at the low end. So either way, I do look at this car as something that would be pretty awesome to get. I think it looks absolutely stunning. Probably one of the better designed Ferraris in my opinion of the recent generation, but nothing too crazy stands out about the stats, to be honest. It just looks like a really overall well-rounded good C-Class car. Next up, we finally have the Pagani Utopia Coupe, and this is a car I've been waiting for a very long time. Ever since the Huayra came out and the Pagani Zona Cinque was in Asphalt 6, I've been following Pagani with a keen eye, one of my favorite car companies, and I think its placement in Asphalt 9 is quite good. Now, it's not going to be the king of A-Class. It is definitely above some of the mid-tier A-Class cars and the common ones like the Huayra BC, but it's not up there next to the kings that we know like the Imola. So this is going to be a very good car, and as you can see from the stats, it's going to be especially good in multiplayer with decently high acceleration, but also really good handling and nitro. So again, I think this is going to be very good for multiplayer, and it's also really good looking in my opinion. Next up, I love to see another super sedan, and this time it's the Alfa Romeo Giulia GTA M. Now it's going to be a pretty decent D-Class car, coming in with an acceleration of 77 is not that great compared to some of the other additions we've had recently, but its max rank of almost 2,900 is pretty darn good. It's probably going to sit right below the Volkswagen Electric R, somewhere in that range. So not at the very top, no king for sure, but it's going to be very potent in D-Class multiplayer and maybe even for Silver League. Next up, we have what I almost thought was another Lotus Emira. I was quite confused because this thing looks eerily similar to that car, but it's the ATS Automobili GT. You might not have heard of this car brand before, but we do have another ATS Automobili car in the game in the form of the Corsa RR Turbo. However, this is well above that other car because it is in S-Class. Now unfortunately it's going to sit at the lower tier of S-Class. As you can see, it only has a rank of 4,100 at max, but it has some decent acceleration. I'm not really sure beyond that where this car fits into the game. It doesn't seem like it's going to make a lot of sense in multiplayer or events, but it may just be a nice car to have in the garage, and I do think it looks quite good, even if it is a mirror image of the Lotus Emira. We also have yet another copycat, although this time it is literally just a copy. We have another W Motors Lykan Hypersport, but this time it is the Neon Edition. Now it does have an extended rank of 4,888, so definitely well beyond the original Lykan Hypersport that we already have in the game. So as you can see, it does have expanded stats such as the acceleration and nitro. So it does look like it's going to be quite a good car, but it's not going to touch any of the kings if I am reading those stats correctly. It really doesn't seem like it's going to make that much of an impact. But it is cool to see that we're getting more neon editions of cars. I do think they're quite cool in my opinion, but this car is probably going to hover right around the Bugatti Chiron mark. That car is only at 4,755, so this car is going to be above that in some areas. So it's going to be quite good, but again, it's not going to compete with like the Tuatara or the Kings of S-Class. And for the last car in this update, we have something that actually isn't new. Now, a lot of you guys might not have been here for this, but a while ago, we had an Asphalt 9 esports tournament that featured a Formula E car, which is this one, the Formula E Gen 2 Asphalt Edition. Now, way back then, it was an inaccessible car. It was only playable for the players who were participating in the tournament, but finally, a couple of years later, everyone can now play with it, and look at that acceleration of 87. That is absolutely insane. Now, based on the other stats of the car and the overall rank, it's definitely not going to be a king of C-Class, but again, that insane acceleration has got to be good for multiplayer, so I definitely want to test that out when I can. And it does have pretty good handling in Nitro, as you'd expect from a, well, actual track car, but that top speed is quite disappointing, so I don't think it's going to be that good in a lot of multiplayer situations where you're going to be on a track like Cairo or the Himalayas. A lot of the other cars like the Vencer and the Aranera are just going to blow right past you once you get to that 40 or 50% mark in the duration of the race, but this is certainly going to be a very fun car in my opinion, and it looks pretty cool as well. Alright, with all the cars out of the way, let's get on to the new feature in this update, and that is overclock. Now, I'm going to read the description of this and then I'll give my overall thoughts, but overclock is a temporary boost to a car's stats, and it can be applied to only select cars in your garage. So each season will feature a select list of cars that will be available for overclocking. Now, the cars available for overclocking each season can change, and they are ensured to include some useful picks that will surely be helpful in upcoming events. Now, they can be obtained as rewards during time-limited events or purchased directly from the shop for offers and bundles, but they can also be included in other special event rewards in the future. So just quickly looking at the image here, you can see a overclock chip 30 out of 1000. So it seems like you'll have to build up your amount of chips before you can apply them to a specific car. And obviously from the description, you can't apply them to every single car. You can only apply them to the pre-selected car list. Now, this is going to be, in my opinion, the most controversial thing added to Asphalt 9 probably in a while, mainly because this is directly affecting the car's performance, and it seems like you can actually purchase these for real money. So I'm not sure how they're going to balance it, to be honest. If you can play with this in multiplayer, even in just normal multiplayer, this is going to be pretty powerful, especially if they put it on cars that are already in the meta. Like, let's say you can just boost the Huracan Evo's top speed. Well, then what's the point of using anything else in Gold League? So it's really going to depend on the car selection, in my opinion. Now, if they allow this to go on, let's say, the Lancer every season on those type of cars, then yeah, who's really going to care? So obviously they're going to want to incentivize people to buy these overclocks and use them, but at the same time, I don't think they're going to want to upset the community by putting them on cars that may be very hard to unlock or are already very powerful. So again, I think the controversy around this issue is going to be very dependent on which cars Gameloft chooses to apply it to. Now again, it will change every season, and more than likely it's going to be the cars that are featured in that season, so all of the new cars or some of the required cars for the special events, but we'll just have to wait and see how all of this shakes up. Alright, so now let's move on to all of the events coming in this update, and let's start with the Italian Revolution Part 1. Now, first off, we're going to have a Lantern Festival featuring the Huracan Super Trofeo Evo, the Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo, and the Lamborghini SC18. And then there's going to be an extravaganza event featuring the Ferrari Enzo, which is nice because I've definitely wanted some more blueprints for that car for a while. There's also going to be a World Wildlife Day featuring the 718 Cayman, the Murcielago LP640 Roadster, and the Espark Owl, which of course all of those choices make a lot of sense for a World Wildlife Day event. There's also going to be a ranked time-limited event for the Crescent Moon event, which has come around a couple of times, this time featuring the Maserati MC12. I absolutely love how the patch notes mention this next event. They say touch some grass by participating in the St. Patrick's time-limited event in all green cars. So I assume this means all eco-friendly cars, all battery electric motor vehicles, but we'll see, unless maybe they just change it to all green paint color cars. That'd be quite funny. Next up, for March Madness basketball season, there's going to be a Pagani Imola event, which is interesting. And as always, there's going to be a season showcase event that'll run during the entire season, and it's going to feature, of course, the Legend Pass car as well, so you'll be able to try it out. Now, every time they introduce a new feature, of course, they want to try and promote it. So this time with the overclock chips, there are going to be a couple of dedicated time-limited events where you can actually try out some of the cars that feature the overclock ability. Of course, we're also going to get some car hunts, this time featuring the TVR Griffith, the Ferrari FXXK, and the Aranera Hasaria 33. In terms of key hunts, we're going to have the Brabham BT62, and the Legend Pass exclusive hunt is going to be the Jaguar XE SV Project 8. However, we're not done. Those are the time-limited events. Now let's talk about the big special events. First off, we're going to have the W Motors Lycan Neon Edition, and of course this is going to be a big special event where you progress every day to eventually build up blueprints for the car. Now for this special event, a couple of the supporting cars are going to be the Noble M600, the Tushek TS900, and a couple of others as well. This event is also going to feature the Alfa Romeo Giulia GTA M. This is the new D-Class car that I mentioned earlier, so you can actually have a free try with this car during this event. We're also going to have a special hunt, and this is going to feature the new ATS Automobili GT, and the support cars are going to be the Sesto Elemento and the SC20. Now, I may be misremembering exactly what a special hunt is, but I can't remember playing one of those. Maybe I missed out on the last one, but let me know in the comments below, what is a special hunt? We are also going to have an Italian car showcase special event, which of course makes a lot of sense for this season, and its main feature is going to be the Ferrari SF90 Stradale, but of course it's also going to feature a lot of other Italian cars. The Alfa Romeo Giulia GTA M will make another return, but this time in its own dedicated Grand Prix, so that's how you'll unlock that car. And finally, the Peugeot Onyx will return in a Starway. Alright, so let's move on to the second part of the Italian Revolution, this time featuring the time-limited events, and we'll have, of course, another Easter time-limited event, this time around with the Essenza SC V12 from Lamborghini, and there's going to be a Holi festival with the Aries S1, which is quite fun. That car hasn't come back in a while. There's also going to be a Goodbye Easter event featuring the Terzo Millennio, which again, I don't think has been featured for a while now in Asphalt 9, and I always love the look of that car. The Crescent Moon event I talked about previously will also return in the second part of the Italian Revolution, and there will be an April Fool's event. Now, we don't have any details, so hopefully they are saving some cool surprises for that. Of course, there's also going to be another season showcase because both parts of the Italian Revolution are going to be their own separate seasons, but they will both feature the Huracan STO as the Legend Pass vehicle. There will also be another overclock free try event during the second part of the Italian season, which is nice. So hopefully this will allow GameLoft to get a lot more feedback in regards to the overclock, because of course if nobody is really able to try it, then they're not going to get a lot of feedback. During this season, we're only going to get 2 car hunts, unfortunately. Those are going to be the BMW M4 GTS and the Neo EP9. But of course, there is going to be a key hunt, and that's going to be the Arash AF8 Falcon Edition. And for the Legend Pass holders, you'll be able to hunt for the KTM Expo GTX. Now, finally, we see the announcement of how you're going to unlock the Formula E car, and it says it's going to be a series of 3 time-limited events matching the real-life Formula E races, and you have to compete in all 3 time-limited events to unlock the car. Now, only the first event is going to be available in the update, so this sounds like it's going to be a very long-term thing, and I'm really excited about that. I think it would be really cool to unlock cars in a tournament format, not necessarily the Grand Prix, but I think just giving everyone the same car and then having them do time trials and then moving on to different stages, kind of like how ESL worked, I think that is going to be an awesome way to unlock cars in the future. Now let's talk about the special events in the update. All of the events previously mentioned for the second part of the Italian Revolution are time-limited or daily events. These next events are going to be those multi-stage special events. In order to unlock the Ferrari Daytona SP3, you're going to have to win the key in the Grand Prix event, and the Pagani Utopia Coupe will get its own dedicated special event, although I'm sure it's going to have a lot of nutty dedicated support cars. We're also seeing the return of the Aston Martin Valkyrie with an Unleashed event. This Unleashed event is going to let you get a lot of free blueprints, especially if you have some of the support cars, those of which are the ATS Automobili GT, the Racer Tachyon Speed, the FE Frangivento Sorpasso GT3, and the Vision 1789, And last but certainly not least, we're getting another McLaren Speedtail Starway. But also, just a quick message to anyone working in the car industry, can you like get your crap together in regards to naming cars? I don't want to say the SP483612 GT4 RS. I don't want to keep saying that anymore. It is not fun. Now, just as another side note, there's also some other important changes. The Gameloft ID will be a new login system that's going to work across all of the Gameloft titles, and it will also allow you to easily access your account across different platforms. For this update, it's only going to be released for the Microsoft Store, Xbox, and Steam. However, I can imagine that this system is going to be expanded, hopefully to help integrate cross-platform later on. So this is a huge step. Lastly, the Windows version is getting an unlink button, and Android performance has been improved. So that was probably one of the longest update videos I've made in a very long time. Now, this is going to be a very controversial one, obviously with the whole overclock feature, and unfortunately there isn't much we can do but just sit and wait and see what happens when we all get access to that feature. But of course, I'm very curious to hear all of your guys' initial thoughts about that feature, as well as the performance of all of the new cars coming in this update. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know again your thoughts about the whole thing in the comment section down below, and I will catch you guys later.